Ware County work session on Monday, November the 13th, 3:30 p.m. Let's do a roll call first. Mr. Burse?
Present.
Mr. Pope?
Present.
Mr. Lucas?
Present.
Mr. Barner?
Present.
Chairman. Okay. Let's do I'm gonna ask Mr. Danny Barton if he would to come up, say a prayer for us.
Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for today. We pray, Father, that as we gathered together today, that you be with these commissioners as they undergo the work of the county. Help them, Father, to realize that they're in their positions because of your will, and that they took an oath, Father, to do the very best that they can. And we pray, Father, that you would give them the guidance, the wisdom to do the best for the county. Forgive us of our sins. In Jesus' name we pray, and amen.
Amen.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be seated, please. Okay. We have before we get started, we got a guest speaker. We got Mr. Scott Eason, and we're gonna ask him to come up, huh?
He was right out there.
Yeah, is he still here? Scott, yeah. Scott, would you come up and explain to us a little bit about what y'all want us to, see if we can help y'all? Yeah, right there at the podium. It's Mike.
Well, gentlemen, appreciate you having us today. Drove up from Daytona Beach, Florida to share with you today what's going on in the life of the Georgia State Guard. We are members of the Georgia Department of Defense. I'm Master Sergeant Drew Kearns, and this, as you said, is PSC Scott Eason. We work for the governor and for the National Guard in emergency services. We work very closely with FEMA and GEMA. We represent the 4th Brigade, which is stationed in Ashburn, Georgia, over off the I-75 corridor, and we're expanding into 2 new battalions, and right now the first part of that is the 1st Battalion, which is we want to move east and have a footprint in the eastern area. In case of a hurricane, tornadoes, floods, these kinds of emergency things that we do. And Waycross, as we looked at the map, was just one of those places that just really sits right in the middle of where we would like to be. We're working right now with the Adjutant General of the state of Ohio to make it possible for us to have a standing order with the community in which we would be serving. And that standing order would make it a lot easier for us to mobilize in the case of a hurricane or a flood or any kind of emergency that you would need us. So we're kind of here today. My understanding that one time there was a National Guard armory here that was manned by the National Guard, and apparently it no longer is. It doesn't have to be that, but we're looking for a place that you might have available for us to come 1 to 2 weekends a month, do our drill, our training, train up some of our new recruits, and then turn them into soldiers. Usually would start on a Friday evening, be done by Saturday afternoon sometime. That's what a typical drill weekend looks like. Don't know if they have any buildings that might fit that need, but that's what we're here to ask about today, or for you to consider maybe discussing, and we'd be happy to make sure you have our phone numbers and contact information.
Okay.
How big of a building are you talking about? How many square feet?
Yeah, that's a good question. It doesn't necessarily have to be a certain square feet. We're looking at probably somewhere in the ballpark of 30 to 50 soldiers tops. We have most of our own. It would be a building that we would be able to bring in some double bunks to be able to overnight the folks there, in preferably a shower, or a restroom, and we do have females in our organization, and so we would want to try to keep them separate. So maybe 2 areas where we could put the bunks in, and then just 1 room that we could use for classroom training. Something around even smaller than this would be fine. And restrooms, of course. But I appreciate that question. It's a good one.
Any more questions? Anybody?
That's the biggest thing.
Mr. Chairman, we might could talk with the school board, they might have one of these old schools, Emerson Park School or something like that, might fit there, right in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking, I think the county's got some buildings around, but we need to, now that we know what you want, you know, we need to, Scott probably knows more about what we might have available.
Right offhand, there's nothing available that the county owns. But it might be prudent just to get the word out there and kind of spread the word around and see what's made available. I know someone had mentioned before the diversion center we have here on US 1. I don't know if that's available, I hadn't heard.
It's been tore down, I mean, they got a new building out there now, but
Right.
the old motel style has already been tore
But
down.
been taken down. I was trying to think of buildings like that right offhand, but not that I can think of.
Right, and it's not necessarily that the outside be a certain size. You know, most of our training we could take to the local park in the community. We let the, law enforcement know that, hey, we're out there, we're gonna be wearing these suits. If anybody, sees us out there, that's what we're doing, we would be heads up on that. Also, one of the things we always do is after every drill weekend, the place is better than we found it. We always leave it better than we found it, inside and out. So it would be something that you wouldn't even know we were there that weekend, other than you're like, maybe you'll see, some bunks, or even some cots, and if a permanent bunk situation wouldn't work out, we could always work with cots as well, until something better comes along. But when you look at the map, Waycross is just in that, my wife calls it the baby bear. It's not too hot, not too cold, it's the perfect place to be. And the thing it would bring to Waycross in this county is, if we can get that standing order with the county, with the state, with the Department of Defense, and something did happen, something did come up, there was an emergency, folks were hurt and they needed us, we would be boots on ground within 3 hours and ready to mobilize. And we would headquarter out of here, because this is where we already are, so.
So would the state pay for this now? The light
I'd
bill,
have to talk to
water?
them. Right now, in Turner County, which is where we have our brigade headquarters, they donated the building to us, and just as long as we maintain it, they don't charge us anything. And I know we don't have a building budget because most of our units stay in active National Guard armories. That can cause a little bit of a headache, because now you have another unit in there, they deploy, they come back, you're sharing it, you're trying to meet their requirements on their schedule for their drill weekends, and sometimes it can be tough for us. On times when we're gonna co-train with them to mobilize them up for going overseas or something, that works out fine. But normally, we've enjoyed having our own building, we're the only brigade with our own building, and we're just trying to find that place that but we're all volunteers, so I'm retired military, I know Scott is a first responder, a career first responder, so when we come in and drill, we don't get paid like the National Guard and Reserves do. So we're volunteers, so we have a very, very limited budget, and the chances that we have much of a budget to even try to pick up the tab, honestly, on the electric bill would probably be minimal. I would have to look into that and see if there's any budget for housing, because they like to stuff us in an armory, a National Guard armory that's being used.
What does drill consist of?
So drill weekend, it's already, the drill schedule for the year comes out in advance, and it could be anything from chainsaw training to search and rescue training. We might have we do our own basic training for the recruits that are non-prior service, and that would include some land navigation, some orienteering, obviously military, time, phonetic alphabet, things just to learn how to wear the uniform properly. But drill weekends range. It depends on what we have. One weekend might be an absolutely boring weekend of nothing but administrative work, getting your personnel records together. But the next weekend, we could be out all night long, bivouacking out, and maybe using night landing goggles to do a scenario where we have to search and rescue a lost child that's out in the woods, which happened just about a year ago out in the wildlife preserve. We actually had to go in and try to find an elderly man who wandered off from South Carolina. some of you may have heard of that. It was actually our brigade that found him. Unfortunately, it was not a rescue anymore. It was, recovered.
Mr. Chairman, Mike could work out, I don't know exactly what they need exactly, but as far as the training goes, it'd be probably the same training center. That'd be a perfect fit for that.
Yeah.
And there's one classroom over at the original training center that possibly could be used for bunks and that kind of stuff. So,
Well, I appreciate y'all thinking about that. We would bring our own equipment, there's no equipment needed other than, we would bring a truck over with our own sleeping arrangements.
right.
And if
Trying
it's
to
something
send-
to tear down.
Training center director's not here today, but that's an idea.
Yeah, and I'll
Yeah,
I'll
we
look
have a
into
plan,
that.
and I'm glad you
report
thought of
back.
that. I hadn't even thought about the trainer center. Yeah,
Well, this is the first place we've stopped, and,
okay.
you know, our hopes are high on maybe Waycross being that place, but any ideas you guys think of? I know that Scott lives up here in Georgia and has your number, I believe, Mr. Griff, and you have his, and he can let me know, and I can come represent the brigade at any time.
Okay.
if need.
All right.
All right.
Thank y'all both.
Hey, we,
Thank y'all.
thank y'all for coming, Scott. Yeah, we'll see what we can do. All right. Mr. Billy Carter. Would you come up and explain this
Yes, we can.
veteran property tax exemption?
Yes, sir. Typically, when somebody comes in our office and they apply for a disabled military exemption, homestead exemption, typically in the past, the letters from the VA have always basically stated that they were 100% military disabled, and that is when we accepted those applications and qualified them. There's been an amendment that was brought to our attention by a veteran. The first thing I gave you there was Georgia Code 48548, and this was effective July the 1st of 17. And basically, what's going on now is they're issuing a letter that may say that they're 80% disabled, or they're, the word, proper term for it. Their evaluation is 80%. And what they've done, instead of going ahead and wording it, that they're 100%, they're noting on here, if you look at the very back page, you should have, I think, that paperwork that I've got.
Yeah.
See that page? On there, this is actually this veteran's letter that he has, and it has on there that his service-connected disability is yes. Then it says his combined service-connected evaluation is 80%, and then it tells him what his amount is, basically, he's awarded. But in the next line, it says, you're entitled to a higher level of disability being because you're unemployable, and it states yes. And kind of in looking at this, Jennifer, I sent this to the county attorney, and she and I looked at it, and basically, if he is being compensated at 100% military disabled, the intent of this saying should receive more benefit, we believe makes that veteran 100% disabled, and that exemption should be granted. His letter was in 2020 is when he got this letter. Like I said, this was amended in 17. It says on the first page that I gave you, it says, any veteran who is a citizen and resident of this state who is discharged under honorable conditions and who has been adjudicated by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs as having a service-related disability that renders such veteran being 100% totally disabled, or as being less than 100% totally disabled, but is compensated at 100% level due to unemployability. We've not seen one that's come in that we needed to refund a long-term amount of money, but this gentleman has paid his taxes in 2020, 2021, 2022, since this was issued to him. we kind of have a procedure in 48.5.380. If that's what we brought to y'all before, that basically says if someone's been erroneously taxed, that they would be refunded a 3-year term of their money. We've had a couple of people that have come before y'all that have asked to be refunded money for, say, a record was not correct. So what we would like to do, what we're trying to do here, I think this is correct. We're just trying to get kind of a standing policy with the Board of Commissioners. We typically always approve all these exemptions, and they're not anything that y'all have to look at. But as long as it's within a 3-year period and they bring this to us, we would like for y'all maybe to give the authority to us to go ahead and do the paperwork where we would not have to come before y'all every time, because y'all are the people that actually give back tax money. Y'all are the people that has to approve that. So we would like to kind of see that we would have that, given to us once we receive this, to go ahead and do the adjustment and send the paperwork to the tax commissioner for them to be refunded. And then if it's something, of course, that's going to be out of the ordinary for 3 years, that we would certainly come before the board if it looked as though someone was requested 7, 8, 9, 10 years of compensation for a disability being a veteran.
The 3 years you're talking about right here, what kind of money you're talking about?
I have no idea.
So it ain't been calculated yet?
I didn't look at what it said, say the tax was or anything. Like I said, to us, it wouldn't matter if it was, what is exemption, what it is, how much the taxes are. It's the principle of being 100% military disabled.
So if a veteran comes in, he's paid property taxes, he comes in with a letter from the VA saying he's 100% disabled, do you refund the total amount of the taxes paid that he paid?
That's one.
And any fees, all of it?
Right.
So 100% disabled veteran will not pay property taxes? That
Well, up to a certain extent, you can make once they're value their property, I mean, if they're living in a $750,000 house, they're not gonna be completely exempted off. It's got a limitation, a
Oh,
dollar
okay.
limitation
I
on
got
how, it's capped.
Gotcha.
So it's not saying they're always gonna pay nothing, because we do have some here in town that are 100%, and they still pay a pretty good tax bill because of the value of the property.
Right, okay.
So, Billy, as you were saying, this is basically what you all want is to have a policy in place to where you won't have to come to the commission here every time someone comes up with this.
Correct.
Isn't that kind of something similar, Roger, like we did a while back with you,
Actually, what he's stating is just making a policy, which is, honestly, it's standard already for 3 years.
right, the 3 years, I understand, yeah.
So really, the policy would have to be anything out of the 3 years, past 3 years. Because y'all gave me for the waiver penalties and interest and stuff like
Right.
that. And this is a different, this is taxes altogether. When stuff like this, what they need it, typically, we just got an ACO and we have to refund. Because that's the law and that's what's required. Anything past that 3 years is where the boards actually needs to come in play. And y'all would decide whether or not to go back past 3 years or not, if they meet that criteria.
But what, Mr. Billy, what you're asking for is you want it, instead of bringing every case before us, the leniency to go ahead and just make the decision to do the 3
Because
years.
it is taxes instead of penalties and interest. And we
Right.
typically do, anything else, we do the 3 years. And we've come to y'all before with, say, a record that was not correct. And we would send the ACO to Roger and then would do the correction and he would do the refund. This one is, like I said, it being a military and a veterans exemption, we could run in, that's why I'm kind of laying the groundwork that we could have somebody that gets a letter, and I have seen one that rendered one back like 8 years. The man had been deceased for 5 years, and they finally sent it to his widow. And, like I said, it was at that point in time, that's a discussion to have in my eyes, if that's rendered and they get something that says 7 years later that they decided they're 100% military, they were disabled 7 years ago, in my eyes, I still refund the money because of what their duty was and what they had to do. I think that's the right thing to do, and I think that's the opinion of some of the people in the Department of Revenue in the discussion, in the classes, that they're of that opinion. We'll just say that's an opinion. That's what mine is, just an opinion about it. But anyway, we do, the ACOs and issuing to Roger for 3 years, really, like I said, is what we do with everything else. So we go ahead and do it, and what we're trying to do is, like I said, just cut out on having to come to y'all with individual situations where you're having to refund tax. If it falls within that 3-year criteria, we'd like to go ahead and pull the trigger on it, do what we need to do on our end to get it to Roger where he can give it a refund, and then anything beyond that, we can come before y'all.
And if they come in after the 3 years, then it would come to the commission.
Say it's something that's, you know.
Questionable.
The letter is, like I say, going back 5, 7 years or
Right.
whatever, then that would be out of the ordinary case.
Okay.
Basically, anything past 3 years.
3
you
years.
know, would come up to y'all.
Gotcha.
Everything else, 3 years and on.
Okay, but basically right now,
That's the standard operation.
as it stands right now, state law is that most we can go back to 3 years, right? Isn't it state law?
Yeah.
We'll defer to the county attorney.
It's a complicated analysis, and I have researched that for other counties, in certain, there's a variety of situations where that can come up. Billy, I do want to clarify for our minutes, are we asking only for the board to delegate to you the authority with regard to these veterans, or a broad authority with regard to 48-5-380?
Abroad, I think the broad one is what we would be asking for.
So basically, any taxpayer, not just a veteran, but any taxpayer that has been erroneously taxed as determined under that statute, what they're asking is for you all, that under the statute, the authority is with this board, and so they're asking for that to be delegated to the Board of Assessors, so they don't have to bring it before you.
Well, Roger's already got the authority to do releasing the heirs now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and like he was asking, but the thing is it's already standard practice 3 years. So I don't see where it's the policy. We really need to have a policy to give them to say, well, if it's 2 years or 3 years, they can do it. That's standard. That's the law. They can go back that far. Anything beyond that is really where y'all need to be involved. I think part of it is letting you guys know that there's instances that that's gonna happen. And these are generally larger refunds than like $200 or $300 a year or something like that. So, I mean, with this particular case, I believe it or not, I'm trying to remember right offhand, because I remember looking at his taxes. I think it's roughly around $1,900 a year.
About $6,000.
And there's also a max on it that they can get, right?
Yes, sir.
I think it's 50,000 is what I read.
I didn't get it, 68 or 70,000 at fair market value, and assessed value is like 32,000.
Well, the law concerning this, the exemption they get, is a greater of $32,500, which is state law, or the U.S. code is like 212 in the U.S. code, and right now that's $109,000 for this coming year, this year. So, fair market value, a little right around $275,000 would be exempt.
Okay.
Would it be okay then if we ask for a resolution to be wrote up and then bring it back before us on the next meeting that would satisfy you, Billy? And get us one wrote up, like you want?
Right.
You
We
and
just want to be covered.
Roger can.
We already taken care of our things, but like I said, you could run into bigger, checks, having to cut larger amounts of money, we just want to make the board aware,
Right.
like I said, of those decisions that are being made.
Okay.
Billy, would you like to request this board to approve that taxpayer that you have today, so you can go ahead and process that, and then we'll bring the resolution back for the future delegation of that authority?
Correct, because his taxes are going to be due 15th is the deadline.
This
So
meeting.
his taxes are due for this year, Wednesday, so we would,
We need to go ahead and approve this then?
yes.
Right, okay. and then get one in place where you can handle it from now on. Okay, that fair?
Yes, sir.
So he wouldn't pay the 15th and then we'd reimburse the last 3.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I'll say carry it over.
okay. We'll need a motion on that in the meeting, I guess. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Billy.
Thank you, Roger.
Okay, agenda items. Make a resolution for the 2023-30 award bid for the asbestos abatement project.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we advertised for the asbestos abatement of the old IT building, the white building behind us. And we had bids, I believe there was 5 submitted, and the lowest came in at $15,980 to Sakal Environmental and Management in Macon. And this is to award the bid to them to remove the asbestos.
Okay. That's just the asbestos on the inside of the building?
Yes, sir, it's actually in the roofing material, I
Oh, it's
believe,
in the
isn't that
roofing, we
right?
got-
Brandon? That's what I
The
thought.
roofing's gonna have to come off.
And it has to be done by a licensed contractor.
Asbestos, yeah. Okay.
And then the building will be removed completely, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do we have we don't have a demolition contract yet, though, do we? Or is
No,
this,
sir, we're gonna have Public Works to take it down.
oh, Public Works gonna take it down? Okay. All right. Any questions on it?
Scott, do we have any references on this company as far as?
That, I don't know, I'll defer. Brandon, do you know if we have any references on this company?
You got 3 bidders, the American there. Just-
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, yes, sir, he presented the list of references with his proposal, and I called all the ones on the list and had nothing but good reports from everybody I spoke with. We had worked with Hardy County School System, Albany, up in Macon, for some health hospitals up there, and scattered all over South Georgia. And everybody, some of these, I was not able to get in contact with all the ones he had listed, but I think like 5 out of the 7 or something like that all had positive endorsements for him, and said that he's the first person they call with anything like this, and can even do the testing and things like that. And so, heard nothing but good responses from him. Everything was positive, really positive.
Okay.
Thanks, Sharon.
Okay, thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Any more questions on it? All right, let's carry it over. Okay, we go to B. The resolution of 2023-31 authorize annual rate adjustments for solid waste collection and disposal. Okay, wanting a raise.
Thought we just gave them a raise. Last year, wasn't it? We just gave them a raise last year, wasn't it?
It can be done annually.
Annually.
Yeah. And it's all based on the CPI. This one's 5.34. And that's typically how they do that. It actually won't take effect until January, but they always submit it toward the end of the calendar year for that reason.
And we're locked in, Mr. Manager, we're locked into that contract for, I think,
for
3
4
years.
years. I think.
5
I
years.
think it's 3
years.
more years.
4 or
Okay.
5
We had
years.
5 years initially, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So residential, it'd be going up, what, 90 cents?
95.
About
Yeah. It's,
roughly about 95 cents, yes, sir.
Yeah,
Monthly.
1770 going up to 1865.
yeah.
95 cents.
Scott, I know it's probably just a typo, but,
Yeah,
under that
it's-
resolution, that's what I knew, I was talking to you today about it, and it's saying 5311 per
Yeah.
month, but
Should be quarter.
quarter.
Yes,
That's a quarter.
I think this is a resolution I was writing in a hurry,
Yeah,
I believe.
the 55.95 a quarter, is that right?
It says that
Now.
up on the front.
Yeah,
Was 53.11.
yeah, that's what it was.
Any more questions on it? If not, we'll move on. Carried over to me.
Ryland didn't want to bid this year on their,
It's,
It's under contract.
it's under the contract.
This is already under
Exclusive
contract.
agreement, yes, sir.
We're not bidding the thing over this, is that correct?
And we've got 3 more years, right?
We got 3 more years, yes, sir.
God, can you tell me, how this consumer price index, who determined that, how is that done?
Department of Commerce,
Okay.
they'll put that out annually. I think, actually, they do updates quarterly, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, sir. And it's based on a wide survey of prices throughout. They have different regions, and, you know, things usually out west for certain products are a lot more expensive, so it's all based on regions.
Okay.
Okay. Any more on that? No, we carried over. Okay, C, resolution for 2023-32, approve increase of pay for Ware County volunteer firefighter.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, I put this out, I really didn't know, just to get some feedback from commissioners to see what the interest was to bump that pay up a little bit for volunteer firefighters. Like I said, it's just really proposed to get some feedback and go from there.
Scott, how long has it been that $15?
It's been that way for a number of years. I don't know if there's anybody here that Dee, do you know right off how many years it's been 15? It's been here, I've been here almost 8, so I know it's been that for that long.
I would go back to say it would be the Chief Brown days.
That's what I thought.
I don't know how many years out.
You wanna raise it from 15 to 25,
Yes,
is that correct?
yes.
Now, Dee, I've asked this, it sounds stupid to me, but why do we call a volunteer firefighter and then we're gonna pay him?
Well,
Well, we take that volunteer off, cause that don't make sense to me. I don't know.
well, what we do right now is we pay for a volunteer that's one that does not work with us part-time, does nothing but what is a strictly volunteer basis. For them to respond on a call. When I say volunteer, they're volunteering their time to respond to a call and to come to training. So when they come to a call, we paid them previously $15 per call. We're proposing that we go up to $25 per call and $25 per training session. Now, in order for them to be certified volunteers, they have to maintain 24 hours a year training from the state of Georgia. So they do training every month, 12 months out of the year. So they would get paid for a training session 12 months out of the year, once every month for them to come train. And then however many calls they respond to throughout the year would be $25 a call. We put in that packet of what the surrounding communities do for their volunteers as well. The one that I didn't put on there, but I had gotten back in touch with, which would be Charleston County, they just pay $20 per call. They don't do anything for training, they don't do anything, $20 a call. So I would dare not say Ware County, if I'm remembering right, I believe Ware County originally started out at $7 a call, then it went to $15 a call, and it has stayed that since way back when Chief Brown days, and now we're proposing to move it up to 25. I think it would be one of the great recruitment tools to go out to propose to new volunteers that would want to come in, but also to give those that are dedicated now to responding a little bit more than $15. We all know $15 ain't gonna get you much at the gas pump right now. And we asking you to come out and volunteer with us to respond to our calls at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning or whenever. So we're thinking this would be a very good tool to use as far as for us to get new volunteers. Now, this would not go into effect until January of 2024. Currently, we are paying on one time a year, which is in November of the fiscal year, which would be this. We're going to propose that we pay on twice a year under the new thing. We'd pay on in May and then we'd pay on again in November.
What's the number of active volunteers, not including the active ones that show up, and not including the support people, active volunteers?
We're paying right now on volunteers 35 that we have.
35?
Yeah, 35 volunteers.
Yes, sir, because I asked Chief Grantham today that very question, what was our paid volunteers that we are paying for right now, and that's 35.
That many show up for fires?
I wouldn't say that's what show up for fire, they'll show up mostly for training, but this past week, we've had as many as 7 show up for a structure fire, which was huge for us, which was big. But 35 is what we have on the books that we pay for.
Not include support?
No, sir.
What
Looks like
changes
we-
in the volunteer program do you plan if this is approved? There's gotta be some changes in that program. Throwing money at it's not gonna do a whole lot.
Well, I think this would be a good recruitment to entice them to come. One of the other things that that's an enticement for them to come to is they can pay into the pension fund, which is $25 a month, and that will give them a retirement with the state pension after a vested of 10 years. So a lot of your volunteers would come into the volunteer program and can volunteer for 10 years and pay that $25 a month and have a retirement. That's in addition to if they have another job. So that's always been a real good. One of the other tools that we're gonna have is we're gonna have on a brand new truck in December. We've got, I think, some of the best rescue tools to do rescue with. Now, if you're wanting to go back and volunteer like you did back in 1970, 1980, I don't know that your days are ever gonna go back to those days again. If you'll look on there and you'll see that the city of Blackshear, I don't think you're wanting to do what the city of Blackshear does, and they pay their volunteers $40 a call. So I think starting off at $25 is a good first step for us to come out and try to recruit some of this younger generation to come up and help. I wish we had some of the old Aldi joiners, some of the old Mr. Lees and stuff that was back in the old days, but just this time frame, we don't have that.
Chief, also with the city of Blackshear, because it was mentioned about, the amount they pay the volunteers, but the city of Blackshear, they don't have the overhead that we have either.
They don't have no full-time paid firefighters.
It's all volunteer.
They have one person in
Oh,
there.
they had 3 paid firemen.
They got Chief Goble, and then they got 2 part-timers.
So when you don't have that much overhead, you can afford to really pay more for the volunteer. And I think that needs to be, brought out, that part. And, but I know since I've been on this commission, they've been talking about the volunteers and $15. I thought that just almost like a joke, paying that kind of money for a call, because you basically kind of like risking your life to a certain degree, going on these fires and everything. So I think that's a good first step, you know, like I say, money can always be an incentive, you know, for pretty much anything. But then also, as Commissioner Pope alluded to, this other thing maybe that you can incorporate in that volunteer program, but I'm pretty sure once you kind of get the volunteer, you can come up with different ideas, you know.
One of the things that we were able to do, thanks to y'all this past year, was we were able to make their stations, we were able to help out with the appearance on some of the fire stations in some of these communities. So we're hoping that we're making small strides to gain a bigger leap instead of, I think this is a good first step.
I think Pierce County has close to 60 volunteers, and they don't pay but $15 an hour, per call.
Yes, sir.
And Coffee County is really, their population is higher than ours are, and they're 10.
And then Pierce County, they don't even have any fire station, do they? I mean, paid.
Yeah, they
Pierce
got
County.
some stations, but they're all volunteers, Pierce County, except for chief.
I believe if my numbers are correct on a little bit of study I've done, it's been $15 since 2000.
It's been a long time, I know that.
So,
Okay.
I would also, Mr. Pope, would like to look at the age of the volunteers in Pierce County has a lot of younger volunteers.
Yeah.
How I could get some of those younger ones here, I'm open to any suggestion. I think one of the things that we were able to utilize this past weekend that's been good is our training center.
Yeah.
We offered a pressurized container class this past weekend, and where some of our volunteers came to Ware County to get that training, they probably would have never been able to go get that training had they would have been able to, had to go to Forsyth to get that training. So I do think by us having some of the training center and us offering some more classes that can get some of these guys that has an interest in some of this stuff, by us hosting it here is going to be a recruitment tool as well. And that's something we've not had in the past. So this weekend was a good tool to have.
All the volunteers I've talked to, they want action. They don't want to sit around a couple, 3 hours playing on the phone. They want action. They want to go out and do stuff.
Well,
You talk about hands-on training, correct? Hands-on training, that's what they
Yeah,
want.
right, training. Yeah, they're not going out setting the house on fire. They want training.
so, and I think, like I say, we need to utilize that training center as much as we can, and which I think I applaud you for having the class out there. But do you ever, I'm pretty sure you dialogue with like these other police, not police, but fire chiefs, you know, and maybe find out, hey, you know, what's your secret here? You can get all these young volunteers, you know, and
I've talked to Chief Nino in Pierce County and Chief Goble in Blackshear, and some of theirs, younger people are after for the retirement that either has come from, say, another department that's retired out and still want to include their retirement, so they'll volunteer inside the community to keep their state pension going, so they can have that retirement a little bit longer. But I'll, about both of them, I'll pay for their lunch. We'll sit down and talk about it.
I believe some of the city of Blackshear too is also police officers that are doing the volunteer stuff, and they got their turnout gear in their squad car, which is what we used to do here.
Okay.
I think it's a good first
Thank you,
step.
Dee.
I think it's a good first step, you know.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Any more discussion on it? No. Let's move on to D.
So we're gonna carry that over?
Carry it over to the vote. Resolution 2023-33, approves second half agreement for the fiscal year 2024 in I can't say that word, indigent service.
Indigent.
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 Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is, the resolution is to approve the second half of this agreement with the Georgia Public Defenders Council. It's the second half, as you said, the second half of fiscal year 2024, which is January through June. There's going to be a slight increase in the cost for this second half because the number of cases for Ware County has increased from 28.2% to 32.39%. So the personnel costs will increase only because, well, for the caseloads and also 3 of the public defenders, local pay for public defenders was increased $5,000 each to keep in line with the state, primarily to be able to keep attorneys. And there's if you're interested, there's a public defender's office budget on the very back sheet if you're curious about how those numbers are broken out.
Yeah.
What we
They had
need,
go ahead.
to decrease our cost, we need to kind of get our crime rate down, these caseloads.
That's what
you
it
know.
is. Where counties keep going up,
Yeah, we
others keep going
up,
down.
which they got to put more man hours in it, you know.
Right. I
Scott, I
think
got a
we're
question.
leading the race. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I got a question on this. The money that Ware County puts in, their chief office is here in Ware County, right?
Correct.
But we supply all the other counties. But they contribute to, I know the other
They
counties
contribute.
too.
Yes, sir. They do contribute to our office expense and what it takes to run the
Oh,
office.
they do?
Yeah, they could contribute.
So basically, this is a continuation of the previous contract. except for
Correct, it's
the
just the
percentages.
second half. They break it up in 6-month increments,
Six.
only because of how the budgets are done.
All right. Thank you.
So this costs the county then additional 48,000?
Yes, sir.
And for about 15,000 of that is because of mandated raises that went with it.
Right, yeah, the
That
state
was the three
funded, ADA's guided, I mean, not ADA, excuse me, the public defenders, but this was for the ones that are paid out of local share to bump them up just to keep them even.
Right. And that was about 15,000 total for those 3 or however many.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There was 3 of them.
Okay, any more discussion on it? Let's carry it over. Okay, resolution of 2023-34, approve employee safety incentive pay.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commission, this is something that Ware County has done for a number of years. It is a safety incentive through the workers' comp rebate that comes back from ACCG. As I mentioned there in the cover sheet for the agenda item, we've only received a refund of roughly about $9,500. But on top of that, we will receive a premium credit dividend in January, this coming January, which will be more than what's needed to pay out that amount to all the employees. Also, too, that amount also goes to constitutional officers, too. Everyone would get, if they're full-time, would get $125, and part-time would get $65.
I got a question. Why are we paying the constitutional officers and elected officials the $125?
That's a good question. They've done it.
I mean, we all elected
Correct,
for the
yeah.
job. And, I mean,
I don't know,
I'd be
it's
willing
been
to
done
forfeit
for
my
years.
$125.
Yeah.
I mean, I just
get
don't
back
see
to
why
taxpayers.
elected officials should get a Christmas bonus.
Why, I mean, I don't know how this got started. That should go back in general fund, rebates and refund.
I mean, I don't have no problem giving employees a bonus, but elected officials, I mean, I don't think we should be getting it.
Started kind of an incentive, a reward for employees to try to be safe during the year. That was the whole purpose of starting it.
Like Steve said, the constitutional officers and the elected officials shouldn't be on it though. I wouldn't think.
I'm fine with not paying us.
That's fine. So what other constitutional officer will be involved?
Constitutional officers,
You got all your
Yeah, you got-
elected officials, judges,
commissioners.
commissioners, tax commissioners, sheriff, probate.
Yeah.
I mean, all the boards make good money, they don't need $125. Not Roger.
Well, we just tell them, Steve, say, you don't think none of them need that money?
Do what?
Turn over the menu.
Get
No, I
back
don't
to
want-
taxpayers. They the one
That is
we
right.
need to be looking out for.
Add a little bit more to the employees, you know.
I'm good with paying the employees incentive.
Okay,
Carry it over.
carry it over. F, Ware County Purchasing Policy Revision.
This was on
We had
the
that
agenda
before,
before,
didn't we?
and I put
Yeah.
it back out there. I think Commissioner Pope mentioned something about
We did.
taking the part for the finance director to be taken out, and I think if I did it correctly, I removed it, but I didn't know if there was any other changes or any other discussions concerning that. I just put it back on the agenda to see
Yeah.
what you all might want to do with it.
I remember it being on there. Any question on it? Any commissioner got anything on it?
Yeah, well, a couple of things, and you say Commissioner Pope mentioned about the finance director. So, Ms. York, what is her title?
County supervisor.
County
Yeah,
supervisor?
yeah. Ware County back years ago had a finance director, Jim Johnson. And,
Most counties do.
and, yeah, most counties do have finance director. He left and went with Satilla Regional many years ago. But yeah, he was the finance director for Ware County. And probably the other counties that they represent have finance directors. I don't know that, but we only have a county supervisor.
Because that's really what I thought she was, the finance director. She deal with, you know.
Well, in a lot of ways, those duties and responsibilities carry over, yeah. It's kind of a catch-all, if you wanna call it.
Yeah.
What would be the difference if we had her with the title of finance director? Would that constitute maybe a different level of pay or?
Usually it is,
Yeah,
usually
usually
finance
probably.
directors, they have a, advanced degree in accounting. Most of the times they have, they're CPAs, in most cases, not all cases.
It seemed like to me she been doing the job, and like I said, I don't know what all the particulars are about it, but I just always thought she was the finance director, and when you say we don't have one, I thought we had.
Yeah, it's just a different position altogether.
Okay.
Do you think we need to change it to that? Is that what you saying, Leonard?
Well,
Or
I'm
were
just
you asking-
trying to find out, you know, I mean, I thought Ms. York, and I think she does a great job, I thought that's what she was, the finance director or whatever, finance personnel, but right now they're saying she's the county supervisor?
Accounting supervisor, yes, sir.
Okay.
Who does she supervise?
County staff, finance staff.
She's finance.
You don't, what, one employee, are they? How many employees she got? Two?
1, 2, 3.
Three, four, probably see the pay clerk.
All
She
right.
got about four under her, ain't she? Or
3.
three?
Yes.
And also in this, procurement policy, down here at the bottom on, I guess I don't know what the page number, but it's, say contract with private firms to build, rebuild, maintain county road that costs $200,000 or more must be let to the lowest bidder according to requirements of Georgia state law. We don't have a clause in our policy that say the lowest are the best bid, because sometimes the lowest not always the best.
That language is directly from the statute, right there. But yes, historically, the lowest bid, if it's not from a qualified bidder, would not be a responsible bid, and so that could be discarded. So to your point, it is true that it is not always automatically the lowest bid, although the statute does require a county to let the bid for those certain road projects, but that language is from the statute.
Some finance policies like that will state the lowest and responsible bid, so that way you know that you got some criteria built into that.
And since we're on this, and I was asking senior member here for some wisdom on this, explain me what's the difference in a public works construction project and a road construction and maintenance project, because it kind of separates them out there about the amounts. And I think I know what it means, but I just want to make sure I'm clear.
So, yeah, I mean, I think Georgia law, maybe Brandon can speak to this even better than I can, but Georgia law does have a definition of what a public works construction project is. In my mind, it would be like building this facility that we're in, something like that. So basically, it's any major capital project that's not roads. So they've got one, and historically, roads just went within the past maybe 10 years. Roads used to be 20,000, and the public works construction project limit was 100,000, and then roads jumped from 20 to 100. I mean 20 to 200. So I think historically roads was actually less than the public works construction project requirement. But again, that's all state law. That's not local to you all.
Another example would be like the construction projects that go on at the airport.
Right.
Because of the size.
That would be considered a public works.
That's correct.
Project
Yes.
out there, okay, thank you. Like the fence, like we just doing about the
That's
fence
correct.
thing
Yeah.
and the paving and all that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
On the first page, 2A, under budgeted capital expenditure, the county manager had the authority to procure and pay for budget goods and services which cost less than or equal to $50,000. It was 20,000, wasn't it, or 25,000?
25, it's 25 now.
So we raised this to 50?
That's just proposed, that was what was drawn up by the attorney. So it could be anything, I mean, basically you could allow it to stay there where it's at now.
So it's 25 now or 50 now?
25.
It's 25 now.
25 now, we're gonna raise it to 50, you'll have the authority to spend $50,000.
For anything that's budgeted,
Right.
yes, sir.
So it's already budgeted, so it's already there.
You've already
Right.
approved it. It's essentially just carrying out the administrative task of something you've already approved.
That way we don't have to have the called meeting to approve it at that moment. Okay. So
And
carry it over.
It's,
Something else I saw in here that I really like this part about the, reporting of the monthly commission, at the monthly commission meeting. So even though Scott right now had that latitude to do that, it still has to come and make a report monthly, and especially on the one about the $10,000. They say let's see, a list contain non-budget capital equipment items which cost less than or equal to 10,000 and was approved to purchase or purchased by the county manager. And it's saying that the finance director will furnish this commission with a monthly report of, all those expenditures.
Carry it over.
The origin of this really, and I forgot to mention this, was at the time it was thought that, the state was increasing the bid limit, for those public works projects, the road projects, to $250,000. That didn't pass, but I talked with, I can't remember which attorney it was for ACCG. They're gonna present that again. There was something they needed to change for that, so they're pretty sure that it'll pass next year. They need to correct something that was in the legislation.
So what they proposing to go up 250,000?
250, yes, sir.
And right now it's what?
200.
200,000.
No, for 100 for public works.
Is that what Leonard was talking about? Would that be sort of, Scott, what you talking about, like you had to buy a rotary mower or something like that would be more than $2,000 or $3,000? You could buy it without.
Yeah, when you, typically, depending on the amount, usually
the
these are
amount.
projects themselves,
Up to
construction
10,000.
projects.
Right.
Whether it be public works projects or road building projects or resurfacing, that kind of thing.
Right. Okay.
But like you were saying, Mr. Chairman, it also, like, anything, it could be $10,000 or less that Scott could go
Go, yeah.
and get, and then they make a monthly report, you know, say if something come out, instead of him having to call, have a call meeting and get our, you know, blessings on buying zero turn radius because one of them blew up or something.
Right.
Just gonna buy it, but then just make a report at the end of the month.
Yeah.
My
know
personal,
about it.
my personal, policy is always let y'all know whether it's budgeted or not.
Right. Okay. Any more discussion on it?
I say carry it over.
Okay, let's carry it over to the vote. Okay. Cancellation, G, cancellation of lien or bond issue.
You wanna explain this one?
Sure, I'll be glad to.
G, that's,
Commissioners, I'll be glad to speak to this one if you don't mind. If you'll recall, and it has been a few months ago now, we brought this before you. This is an issue that arises as a result of a bond forfeiture. And so, you know, somebody comes in, they put their property up, and say, we'll post this property and this person, you know, should show up to court. And if they don't show up to court, then the bond is forfeited and the lien goes on the property. Well, this is some family property, and there's been some, you know, passing of former members of the family and different scenarios. And so we went through all of that this last time, and you all approved for the family to pay a portion of the amount of the lien that is on there that's, you know, essentially standing in the way of them moving forward with a sale of the property. And so we just came back to notify you all that that payment has been made. And so now we will move forward with filing the release or cancellation of the lien. So this is just basically an administrative check on what you all have already approved.
okay.
Under what criteria are we releasing these liens? Is the person that was bonded out of jail, they got to be dead, or what?
So I don't know that you all have established clear criteria. Many of these are, you know, it's not that it's happened last year, or even the year before. So it is that, and I think this one may not be as old as some, but every county treats these liens differently. You know, some I expect, although none of the ones I work in actually go and try and enforce the lien. You know, they'll have the sheriff sell the property to get that money. Most of the counties I work in, the liens remain on there until a sale of the property, and then at the time the property is sold, they have to get with the county and, you know, figure out a way to either pay that off or make that right. And then depending on the situation, with this situation specifically, like I mentioned, it was a few steps down in the state trying to sell it and different things like that. So I think it did, what you all approved previously, I think did make sense in this situation.
Okay.
So we're getting 10% of the bail. I think the bond was $15,000, we settled for $1,500.
That's correct.
Okay. Any more discussion on it? I understand it, I think. Let's carry it over. All right. H, discussion and possible action concerning the 2024 Georgia DOT LMIG application. Okay. Brandon, is he here?
Yes, sir.
Brandon, will you come explain to us about this LMIG piece of?
So, thank you, Chairman. We put a list together of some, possible projects based on discussions with y'all and, needs that have been, brought to our attention. And so that's basically what we have here. And then we have also some additional options there in case y'all don't like what we had on the addition list.
Where's the list at?
Brandon, I've got that list. You may give, Gene,
yeah.
Well, that's the old list, we already have seen it, I think, ain't we? It's the one we voted on before,
This is one that Gene,
we'd already done.
this is the new one.
Brandon,
This is a new list, Chairman.
is this increase the 1,101,000?
It
They
did go
gonna-
up from last year.
That was what, we didn't get that much last year though, did we?
No, sir, it did go up some, so this was a higher amount than normal. And, you know, the problem is always trying to find that line of what's gonna be a good and, attractive project for contractors. That's also, you know, we're kind of constrained by that $1 million, like you mentioned. So this is kind of trying to balance that out and make a good project that we're gonna get interest in and, good economic bids. It's also taking advantage of some economy of scale.
Okay.
$1 million not gonna go very far on this list, is it?
No, sir, we also
Come in
have some
less
other
than that, I
funds
imagine.
available. Mr. Chairman, we've got, some SPOS money and some regional SPOS money and some, other funds that are available that we could use to supplement this. So like if y'all like the list and y'all wanted to go with the $2.2 million, we would use, SPOS money, you know, regional T-SPOS money,
Match it.
supplement that LMIG money and try and, you know, make it a good problem. Yes, sir.
We gotta go as far as we can.
That'd be from the 2014 splash, you're saying, some money's from that?
Some of it, we could even dip into regional and 14 splash, just however y'all would rather.
Okay, now, just for the record, Mr. Chairman, this is strict for resurfacing, right?
Yes, sir, that's what, some of the hot topics we've been hearing a lot with some
Research.
resurfacing projects, yes, sir.
Would it be better for us to, maybe get our heads together and maybe look at some of the ones that needs it worse than others? Because it seems like we're not gonna get all of these. But some of them probably, I think, need it. Gee, would you think so? Some of them need it worse than others. We got one or two, like, is it Acock Road or something out there we looked at?
It's already on a different
Yeah,
list.
it's on the list.
It's on a different list.
Local funds is.
Some of these are on there though.
Yes, sir. None of these are.
None
on
of
that.
these are on
No,
there.
none of these are on that
List.
T-spot.
We've got
Okay.
so many lists,
These are-
it's, gives me a headache. trying
These are
to get
just
all
the
three.
overlays.
Yes, sir, but,
Okay.
you are correct, yes, sir, it gets confusing.
But some of them are, these here need it. If you say we ain't gonna get all of them.
Well, we can, but we just have to supplement that LMIG money with some local funds. And we could do all that first part, if that's the way that y'all would like to proceed.
I just got, Mr. Brandon, one question real quick. And maybe this is an ignorant question to me to say, but I'm reading Sycamore Street from Memorial Drive to 82. That's a county road?
No, sir, that was, the one that was brought up, though.
That's a city street.
Yeah.
But it's in the county, so it would just be something we had to work out with the city later on.
The idea is to get with the city and try to do it jointly, but there's one thing I won't pay regardless, is the intersection in front of the Holt's Donuts and Parking Barn.
Is that because you get donuts every morning?
As you can see, Commissioner, that's not a very
That's city.
large ticket item.
Right.
You can't even drive to get a donut from that intersection.
You don't like going over them bumps?
No, I don't know.
But the city of Waycross, they get LMIG money too, don't they?
They do get LMIG funds, yes, sir.
Last time I checked, it was about,
$100,000.
not much more than that, about 280, close to 300,000, that was it.
Well, I agree with Commissioner Port was saying there. When you got streets that's in the city, but they're in the county, everything's in the county, but, you know, that's something that maybe we could get with our fellow city commissioners, and just like Sycamore Street,
Yes, sir.
from Memorial Drive to Carter 520.
Just next to Kroger.
It need to be done yesterday.
Yes, sir.
And, I think that's something that, hey, it could be a joint project or whatever, you know, but I think that's something that we really need to look at.
Yes, sir. That's the spirit of this list, yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, that one on the old Reynolds Street at US 82, South Georgia Parkway to South City Boulevard, that would cover that intersection.
Yeah.
Yeah, down there from Holt's.
And
Yes,
those
sir.
are some very high traffic areas.
Very.
They're gonna have a lot of beneficiaries. Even though they are within the city, there's a lot of county residents that use those streets.
And you got a lot of heavy vehicles travel those.
So that's the bad thing with the city of Waycross. They have kind of some low numbers that the LMIG formula uses to formulate those amounts. It's out of whack. It's not balanced like it should be, because even though there's not many people, you know, residents within the city limits, you come to Waycross in the daytime and there's traffic everywhere, and you see Pierce County tags and Bradley County tags and all these other places where everybody's using the local city streets. They don't get any credit for those in our current system with LMIG and how it's formulated.
So this kind of gives them a little bit of credit with it.
That's one way of looking at it. Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
Brandon, you got this traffic count here, you got that specifically showing us the heavily used areas, the top
Yes,
ones
sir.
are
That's
the
where
heavy?
we're- That's where we're trying to go with this.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. Yes,
I
sir.
see you got, all these top roads in.
One of our other lists called these collectors, which are basically, some arterial type streets where, neighborhoods filter into the main thoroughfare that everybody takes, and the traffic counts get a lot higher for those.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Brandon, don't you think this top list, the resurfacing, if we're going to use other than LMIG anyway, there are a number of roads on the bottom list for consideration that could be added into the project, can it? I mean, it
Yes,
looks to me
sir.
like.
Yes, sir, whatever and as you'll see, Commissioner, a good portion of those were on our, single county T-SPLOST list, and so we identified these, quite a while ago, but, we didn't have enough money, come in, because we wanted to make sure we weren't going to stop those collections, so we had an original project list of 45 million, aware that we were only gonna get something like, 36 million. So we had a shortfall built in, just so that we wouldn't have to stop taking any of those collections for that SPLOST.
Gotcha.
You think then we should try to do the top of that list,
And some of those
And
on the bottom
some,
list too.
and some on the bottom.
if we got the money there?
Get
There's
the top
some that's
list
not
and the
very
worst
expensive.
ones on the bottom.
We do.
How much can we spend those, Scott?
What's that?
How much do we have?
I suggested to leverage your LMIG and to get as much, because of economy of scale, I would say probably somewhere about 400,000 to 500,000 of the regional T-SPLOST money to put with that, because like I said, that's kind of what we thought that regional T-SPLOST would be, is for matching money like the SPLOST would be.
We could spend probably up to $2 million then, or better.
You could. I mean, you could.
1.1 plus 10%. Then
We have to commit 10% based on
Yeah.
state law, but, like I said, if you're wanting to try to do more, the more you put out there from an economy of scale standpoint, you'll get more project.
Got some really good ones on here that, are pretty severe need of attention.
Yeah, I know that Swamp Road needs it in
Yes,
that certain area.
yes, sir.
pretty bad up there.
We could, intend to go further next year,
Yeah.
just kind of move on out until those traffic counts go down, the further you come out of town, so this list here with the 2 miles of Swamp Road is gonna capture, a lot of those vehicles, and then the further and further you go out, the lower your traffic counts get.
Yeah. Do the ones that, I suggest we do the ones that most heavily traveled
Yes.
areas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Brandon, before,
Yes,
I don't
sir.
wanna have to call you back up again later. What we talked about at that last meeting, gentleman sitting right behind you, Mr. Littlejohn, where do we stand on that with the gentleman, the neighbor? Is it
I
still,
Yes, sir, I'm just kind of, hoping for, an epiphany of what to do there. I'm kind of bumfuzzled a little bit, and, I'm open to any suggestions y'all may have on the direction y'all would like for me to go on that.
what was the last thing he come back with?
He requested an amount that we had discussed prior, that y'all had approved. But he wanted a permanent easement and not a right of way. So therefore, we would pay him the amount y'all had approved, but he would maintain possession of that
Of the
property.
property.
And we would just have like a maintenance easement to go there and, do the clearing and the maintenance we want to do to eliminate that, curve situation there.
So he wants us to pay for the property, but not take possession of the property?
That is correct. Yes, sir. So I don't know where to go from there.
But if he sold the land later on, our agreement would still be in place with it. We'd follow the
Those
land.
easements, we would have that.
So I mean, it'd still be just like if we owned the property.
Yeah.
Until you got somebody 20 years from now whose family challenges it.
Well, he just said the title follows the property. I mean, the
Isn't there a limitation,
Is that
Ms.
correct?
Jennifer?
Is that
Isn't there a
correct?
limitation
Councilman?
after it's sold so many times?
So, I think, I don't want to render some legal opinions on, without fully researching those on property, which I've not done. But I think the question is, do we want to pay for an easement, or do we want to pay to obtain the property for ownership? I mean, that's the question for the board, because what we offered was to purchase the property to fix the problem.
Right.
And what the response was, well, we don't want that, we want you to just purchase an easement. So I think that's what's before the board to consider, and you all don't have to make a decision tonight. You can research it, you can have staff research it, or you can make the decision tonight, however you all like. But that's the issue at hand.
Well, I know I ran into a personal situation on a piece of property I owned out Wasboro where I had an easement on. And then when I went to sell the property, the original owner of the easement come to me wanting that easement back. And I told him, no, that was a selling point. And then he got his attorney involved in it, and then we basically had to split it 50-50 for me to even sell the property that I had an easement to that I bought when I bought the property.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm asking this question.
I think it's a fair question. It's just without, there's different types of easements and, different ways that you can write it up. So it's just not it's not as easy to set it out, yeah.
So the norm, Madam Attorney, is that if we purchase the property, then we purchase it straight out. We don't purchase an easement, we just purchase properties which will.
Well, there's certainly different situations, and this is a bit of an unusual situation, candidly. But normally, I mean, if you want to say normally for a road project, we would be purchasing right-of-way. That's certainly normal for a road project.
Or we would own it.
That's correct.
Right.
That's the only way I can see going forward with this is us owning it. I don't like the idea of us having a permanent easement. I don't like that at all.
So, yes, sir, I kind of, at a loss for what to do next.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll try to get with you sometime this week. Maybe we both can go out here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon.
Appreciate it, Mr. Brown.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll carry that over. You got county manager report.
Yes, sir. Only thing I have, Frank's with us, the airport manager. He has 2 leases that were, my fault, was left off of the agenda for approval. And I wanted to find out really, and it brings up a question about our airport leases. They're standard leases, all the same format and so forth. Is that something that the commission wants to continue to approve each and every time we have a new lease? Or would you accept it being taken care of at the staff level, as long as if there's anything changed, we can run it by the attorney, and if not, we can bring it back to you all? This is ones that are standard. There's different name, basically the same price, and so forth. It's a standard lease that we have.
It's like you and Jennifer could approve any lease and they come back if there's any discrepancies or anything.
Right. If something's out of the
That's my
ordinary, we
opinion.
would
That's my
always bring it back for that reason. But these are the ones that are standards.
Right.
We print them off.
Yeah, because sometimes we'll get a lease that was signed 2 months before that. And
Sure.
it just drags out. People won't
Right.
get in their hanger.
Yeah, he has 2 now that are waiting. A third one, he's still waiting on getting something back from them, so
And that's
I
just
just
my
wanted to
feeling.
find out.
I'd like to ask
Only
Frank
the ones that are
if he can
standard.
come up. Not say I would like to ask Frank something, if he can come up.
Frank, would you come up, please?
And I know you've been out there not long, but based on your looking and checking and everything, are we pretty much in line with the normal lease amount? Because I asked this when I first got on here. Is it something that we need to look at as far as what we charging per lease?
So to answer your first part of the question is no, we are not on track. We're about 15 years behind what other counties and other states are, going down to North Florida and as far north as Augusta area, what they're charging for renting house. That's something that I am working on and using the CPI, Consumer Price Index. We are probably about 35% behind where we should be at a minimum, and that's for this year. So that is something that is definitely on my long list of things that I've been working on, and I was going to be bringing that to your attention in the coming weeks for an agenda item to discuss. Because I don't think that's something at my level that I should be adjusting arbitrarily. It definitely have to be brought to your attention, and I've already been speaking with Scott and our attorney on that. Because we're required to give them a minimum 90 days notice if we're going to change the rent amounts. So the standard lease. And we have 2 different forms of leases. We have the T hangar, and we have 2 corporate and a large Quonset hut that we rent out that the county owns, and that's a rental deal. But we also have land leases, and those are where we have private individuals or entities that own hangars, but they lease the land annually from us. And you all, a few years back, approved that 5-year incremental increase. So it's about 3 or 4 cents per square foot every 5 years. But that's separate from this. These are just standard. Folks move out. We have a long list of people that want to rent from us for 2 reasons. 1, our prices are reasonable. And 2, it's pretty general to where they're at. Folks, one of these leases is a gentleman who is sick of paying 3 times the amount of what we charge in Jacksonville. So he's willing to bring his aircraft up here and drive 2 hours to fly it. And another one I'm waiting on is coming out of Arizona because he wants to move to Georgia, but it's cheaper for him to house it with us than it is in Arizona. And that also falls into additional monies because he'll have to register that aircraft here no different than a plane or a boat or a car.
Okay, that's,
I probably gave you a little too much on that.
no, that's something I asked when we first got here, and I think it's been, I forgot how many years since we went up on the lease. It's been pretty much the same thing.
From what I can tell, the leases that I have access to, some of the original leaseholders, 2009 was the last price, either what it began at or what it changed to. So it's been a minute.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Any more?
That's it. I'm sorry.
That's all
Yes,
you
sir, that's
got.
all.
Got. Okay, any commission comment?
I got one, if somebody else has one.
Go
I had
ahead.
a gentleman email me, and it was in reference to the annual Mickey, I cannot say that K word, Cat Quebec Midget.
Back to back.
Cackleback Midget Bowl. that has been played out there at our Trembling Earth since the sixties, is what I understand. And for some reason this year, we're not gonna have it anymore. And there's a lot of people upset about that. Talking about something we've done for, 62 years until this year.
News to be, I have to find out what's,
I don't know who told him. Can we get
Lance
our,
here?
Lance, can you come up and let's talk about that, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Good evening, Lance.
As it relates to the Mid-Catholic Black Ball, which traditionally we have it every year. In fact, it's Thanksgiving weekend we have. Situation we have that we have in our planning, we have our personal calendar that we do in recreation, then we have the GRPA calendar. So we have to align our calendars with GRPA. So historically, in the past, again, we had Thanksgiving weekend. Well, in order for the kids to participate in All-Stars, this week is the week that, in GRPA, we have A, B, and C. Ware County is a Class B. Ware County is having their Class B championships this week. In fact, I'm on the Bronson here. So in order for us to have that bowl, we will have to be before we actually have our bowl. So we have Class C. Class C had theirs last week. Started on Saturday 11th. So if we want to do it, we couldn't do it because Class C had theirs. Following week, which would be this coming Saturday, would be our bowl. Or we are in our district bowl now. So it would be Monster running that had to post the season. So, and then we have Class A, which is the Savannah area. They usually don't come. Thirdly, we had the GRPA conference, and it started on Monday, on the 6th. So if we would have it on the 4th, you had a lot of agencies that wouldn't buy into it because in the South, it was in Athens. So they would have Sunday, one morning, going on the conference. So this year, it has just really been tough, starting out in September with the hurricane. We think everybody sees it. In fact, we just ended our flag season this past week. So our whole calendar for football has been off this year. What we did put in place for Mid-Catholic Black Bowl is to have a bowl or a preseason tournament for basketball and baseball for this coming up season. And then go back around to our football, we can have our normal Mid-Catholic Black Bowl. Now, we really can't say that is going until we get our GRPA calendar. We can't get that calendar until December 9th, when the state athletic committee meeting, they said their schedule, then we're able to say our schedule back over here.
But last December of 22, was this bowl
Yes.
put in?
Oh, yes.
And
And in the past, just to be quite honest, those numbers for our bowl have been going down. And it's partly because of the travel ball and also our district calendar. Historically, we wouldn't play our district tournament until actually Thanksgiving week. So what a lot of teams did, because of that Thanksgiving week, they will enter our bowl, but they give them a pregame before we actually go into
the actual season.
GRPA actual tournament to go to compete at state. But this year has been odd. GRPA has changed their calendar year again. So our calendar year really begins in December, but this year it starts in January. So we don't get those dates until again December the 9th. Those dates we release, we're able to readjust our calendars. I would love to see our Mid-Catholic Bowl return, and hopefully we can get it strong. I don't know if you was aware, GRPA Mid-Catholic Bowl was 3 days. The last 3 years it's been 1 day on Saturday. So we usually have ran it Saturday all day. We start at 8 o'clock our first game, maybe 8:45 our last game. Again, roll over to Monday, Tuesday, in fact, Wednesday. But it has moved now into Saturday. So we have to look at some things and re-strategize how we're gonna re-event our this event. Plus it's a great event, a lot of people look forward. This is one of the other issues that we're talking about, COVID, attending the GRPA conference. That was one of our questions, how can we get back involved with the Mid Cafe? So we're hardly looking at it, making some adjustments to get the ball back. But this year,
Is there any way to get it adjusted this year?
just as soon as that calendar come out, we're gonna get it adjusted. We have already set our calendar for what kind of break party we do that in October. So we just have a couple more dates that we have to look at from GRPA, at least their days, we can adjust our dates to keep this in the
Okay.
Hopefully we get it straight.
And then we can let or you know the coaches that do the travel ball and all that, and you can let them know?
Yes, sir. In fact, we have teams that come from Union, Florida every year.
Mhm.
Teams wise, Ocilla, all our surrounding counties. It just makes it difficult in our district, and then the classes in your district do their tournament on different weekends. And that's one of the major hurdles that we have to overcome. Again, when we talk about Class A, that's all that Savannah area, but that's in our district.
Right.
But they do their own,
They're their own thing.
and when they come over, they may come over and they not. But our Class B and C, that's all our surrounding counties. And so that's one thing that we're working with those directors to see what we can do to get them impact.
Let's try to, if we can, and I know you'll do your best, Mr. Lance, to try to get it. If there's any way we can work it in, let's try to work that in.
Then we do all that in, we get that ball back. Hey, I played in when I was small, work back out. We played actually on Thanksgiving night.
Right.
And so, that Memorial Stadium, so I know it's big in our community,
Mhm.
and, we want to revive that program, and get it back like it was.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Lance.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lance. Okay, any more, commission?
No, sir. Not for me.
Before we adjourn, we need to take about 10 minutes before the public hearing. Or y'all wanna do that? Time running
Come out
short.
with a public hearing.
Huh?
We can adjourn and then come back with a public hearing.
Coming, yeah. Let's, I hear a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Let's be back at, 5:15. We'll start the public hearing.